Industry Voice. California just handed energy managers two compliance problems at once. This Industry Voice is from Christy Martell, Senior Vice President, North America for IES. Corporate energy managers operating in California are facing a double regulatory crunch this year. Two significant mandates took effect simultaneously, each carrying consequences for non-compliance, each generating pressure on exactly the same corporate assets. Most companies are treating them as separate work streams, but the ones that are truly getting ahead of this have figured out that they can't. The first track, SB 253. California's Climate Corporate Data Accountability Act requires companies with more than $1 billion in annual revenue doing business in the state to disclose their Scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions. More than 4,000 companies fall within scope, and maximum civil penalties reach $500,000 per year. So, it is a relief to many that the California Air Resources Board has proposed deferring the first reporting deadline from August 10th to November 10th, 2026, a 3-month reprieve that the agency framed as additional preparation time, not a softening of expectations. It's worth noting that SB 253 remains in effect and enforceable even as it faces an ongoing constitutional challenge in the Ninth Circuit, unlike its companion statute, SB 261, which the court has enjoined. For companies that haven't started, and there are plenty of them, even November represents a tight timeline. Scope 1 and 2 reporting requires verified utility consumption data across owned and leased facilities, reconciled against emissions factors, and organized by source. For large commercial portfolios spanning multiple sites and building types, that data gathering exercise alone can take months. The companies that treated the original August deadline as distant have already burned most of that runway. The second track, Title 24 California's 2025 Building Energy Efficiency Standards, took effect on January 1, 2026. And they do something the previous version did not. They reach into existing commercial building stock. Earlier editions of Title 24 applied primarily to new construction and major renovations, but the 2025 update extends compliance obligations to routine equipment replacement decisions. The provision that matters most for corporate facilities teams concerns HVAC systems. When HVAC systems in commercial buildings above certain capacity thresholds reach end of life, they generally cannot be replaced like for like with gas-fired heating equipment. The replacement must meet the 2025 standards, which in most cases means a heat pump system. This is not a future cycle requirement. It applies at the point of equipment failure or scheduled replacement, starting now. For companies operating California commercial real estate, a routine capital decision that was administratively simple a year ago now carries a compliance dimension that was not there before. Where the two tracks intersect. Here is where treating these as separate problems starts to cost money. The energy consumption data that SB 253 requires companies to disclose is generated by the same building systems that Title 24 is now requiring them to upgrade. The Scope 1 and 2 carbon footprint a company is legally obligated to measure and report is, in significant part, a direct output of its HVAC infrastructure. When a California facility replaces gas-fired HVAC equipment with a heat pump system, that swap eliminates direct Scope 1 emissions from combustion and shifts load onto the grid. So the net carbon outcome turns on the emissions factor of the electricity it draws. An effect that, in California's relatively low-carbon electricity market, typically resolves in favor of a net reduction and improves further as the grid continues to decarbonize. But that reduction only shows up accurately in SB 253 reporting if the energy and carbon implications of the upgrade have been quantified before and after the swap. Most capital planning processes for HVAC replacements don't include that step. The decision gets made on first cost and mechanical performance, the upgrade happens, and whatever carbon reduction it represents disappears into the accounting rather than informing the sustainability disclosure. Companies that plan HVAC replacements with both lenses in view, what does this do to our Title 24 standing, and what does it do to our Scope 2 numbers? Get two compliance outcomes from a single capital event. Companies that don't may still clear both hurdles, but with much more effort, higher cost, and less defensible evidence of what they actually accomplished. What to do before November. The practical implication for energy managers is not complicated, but it does require parallel action before the end of this year. First, audit which California facilities have HVAC systems approaching replacement age. Second, establish a verified Scope 1 and 2 baseline across those same facilities, and treat that baseline as a source of real-time data rather than a one-time snapshot. After all, SB 253's reporting obligations don't end with the November deadline. Building performance monitoring platforms that connect metered consumption data to continuous carbon tracking make this significantly more manageable for multi-site portfolios. Rather than assembling utility data reactively each reporting cycle, energy managers work from a dashboard that already reflects operational reality in close to real time. Wherever the HVAC audit and the performance baseline overlap, there is an opportunity to sequence capital planning around compliance. A planned heat pump replacement can be modeled ahead of procurement to quantify the projected carbon reduction, turning a mandated equipment swap into a documented decarbonization event with an auditable before and after record. For portfolio managers with California exposure across multiple sites, the priority question is, which properties face the most immediate compliance pressure across both mandates simultaneously? Answering that question requires the same data set either way. That shared data foundation is the integration most corporate real estate and sustainability teams are still missing. The broader point, California's dual track approach is going to produce a lot of parallel work streams that don't need to be parallel. SB 253 and Title 24 are fundamentally two regulatory levers pushing on the same physical reality. Buildings consume energy, that energy has a carbon cost, and both the consumption and the cost are now subject to mandatory accounting. The companies that recognize the overlap now, before November and before the next HVAC system fails, will spend less capital getting to the same place. They'll also have something the others won't: a clear, defensible record of what their compliance decisions actually accomplished.